Hello everyone and welcome to the latest instalment of The Inner Racer. Now for those of you who are brand new to the channel, my name's Aaron, I'm from London in England, and I am just a normal person, a regular guy I would say, who has decided to become a racing driver. And that's why I've started this channel, to document my journey, primarily in my first season of motor racing. Now this year I am racing in the UK based Caterham Roadsport Championship, which is the second rung on Caterham's motorsport ladder. Prior to me making this video, I've completed my first two races at Brands Hatch and Snetterton, and I've documented those two races for you. You can check those videos out on the channel if you haven't already. And for those of you who have watched those videos, you'll know that those rounds presented a few challenges along the way for me, I'm not going to lie. One of which being me running out of SD card storage on both my GoPro and my V-Box. So I'm glad to say that those problems with my storage are now being alleviated, which now means I have a bumper episode for you for this one. So make sure you have some refreshments ready, or if you don't want to watch the episode in one go, you can do it in stages, whatever's most comfortable for you. But I'm particularly excited about this episode because round 3 of the Roadsport Championship has taken us to the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, which to me is the jewel in the crown of the entire season. So for me, I'm a massive motorsport fan. I've loved F1 ever since I was a young child. So having the opportunity to race my Caterham on such an iconic track, one of the most iconic tracks in the world, I'd say is just a massive dream come true, and I'm looking forward to sharing this episode with you. And in addition to that, I'm going to be sharing a little bit of the build up to the weekend for me, just a little bit, because I didn't want the episode to be too long, especially now that I've filmed both races in their entirety. But just to give you a little flavour of what it's like for me in terms of timelines and activities leading up to the race. So with no further ado, I will stop talking, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Hey everyone, so it is Wednesday evening. It's a beautiful evening actually. It's about 6:45 in the evening, and my preparations for the Silverstone race weekend start now. So in addition to racing, I actually have a regular day job actually. So I work in sales and marketing for a financial technology firm in London. So normally my race day packing and preparations would start on a Thursday late afternoon or evening. But for work, I'm actually going to be attending a conference tomorrow. So I've had to start my preparations a day early. So I'm actually starting to pack my car now. So yeah, just in the garden at the moment, getting some of my stuff out of the shed. I actually live in a flat in London, so I actually keep a lot of my stuff at my mother's house. She lives about 20 minutes away from me. So I'm just here. I popped here after work to pick up my stuff and start packing the car. But it's a good chance to see the family as well before the racing weekend. But yeah, with that, this is the vast majority of what I'm going to be taking to the race weekend. Got a few bits to pack once I get home, but yeah, as you can see, my car is pretty packed. I drive a BMW 1 Series, but in this case the 1 in the 1 Series stands for one-seater because there's no space for anyone else once I set off with everything inside. So yeah, let's see how the rest of the weekend gets on. So the time is 5 o'clock, just finished work. It's Thursday evening, and after all that, it's time to go pack and drive on to Silverstone. And yeah, here is the car, back in the car after packing most of it up yesterday. Did some more packing this evening after getting back home from work, and we are ready to go. It's approximately 9:10 in the evening. I'm going to go to Silverstone now to set up my awning so that tomorrow morning I can just get straight to the track and straight into the car really. So let's see how we go from there. So for those of you thinking, oh, where's the race car in all this and how is it getting to Silverstone? I've not seen it yet. Well, because I don't have the space to store a car or for a trailer to transport it, I actually utilise a service offered by Caterham to store my car between races and transport it to each and every round of the championship. So if you're thinking that space is at a premium for you and you don't have the space for the race car or a trailer, this is definitely a service worth looking into. And it just shows that a lack of space at home for a car doesn't have to stop you going racing. And I believe that there are other teams out there that offer a similar service. So yeah, if you're interested in learning more, let me know. And with that, it was time for testing. So by 9:15, I was in the car under the awning, which had been set up the night before, and ready to get into the pit lane. Now this moment is a moment I'll never forget, driving through the pit lane just outside the national paddock. To me, the original F1 pit lane from what I remember. And then it was time to get out onto the track for my very, very first laps and my very first experience of being on the Silverstone GP circuit. So sun was shining, baking hot, 30 degrees, going through Agats and Beckett's for the first time. It was Friday. To me, life couldn't get much better than that moment. It was great. And what occurred to me was just how vast the circuit was compared to Brands and Snetterton. You could really feel the width of the track itself. So yeah, that's me just making my way through, just getting myself into the groove, and eager to learn the track. So that was my first of 4 test sessions throughout the day, running from morning to evening on the Friday, and then going through the Stowe corner there. And after testing, it was time for qualifying race 1 day, and as you can see, the conditions were vastly different. It was about 10 degrees cooler and the conditions were wet. So for this particular race weekend at Silverstone, we shared the bill with the British Endurance Championship. So there are a few interesting cars in the paddock, and this is a screenshot of scrutineering here. And one of the things about us going racing is that every weekend we tend to share the bill with different types of race cars, and I found the machinery on show at this one at Silverstone quite interesting. And so Saturday morning saw qualifying. So we were the very first session out at 9 AM. Conditions were very different compared to the day before, as you can see. And the car was feeling good. I was actually feeling good with it myself as well. But what I will say is that the early parts of the session felt more like a race than qualifying. The group I was with was jostling for position, trying to slipstream one another. So once I got to this point here that you see where I got into some clear air, the conditions had worsened a bit. So even though I had a clear track, the track was damp, so I couldn't really improve on any previous times that I had. And I ended up qualifying 21st. And between qualifying and race 1, I had a couple of issues to sort with the car. I was told by my fellow drivers that my brake lights weren't working. And coupled with that, on the timing sheet, I saw that my transponder wasn't working as well. So I took the car to Caterham support to see what was going on. And it turned out that I had an errant cable that was hanging from the back of my car and striking the ground. And the cable striking the ground had actually blown the fuse, and that fuse was for both the brake lights and the transponder. So after fixing that and getting a new fuse, that was the problem sorted for the weekend. And then we moved into race 1, 21st on the grid, on the outside, and then it was time to go. And I got a really good launch actually, but then missed third gear. But it wasn't too much of an issue compared to the previous 2 rounds. The gaps between the rows were quite big, so even though I missed that gear, because I got a good launch, it kind of balanced itself out a bit. Going around the outside of Stowe there, made a couple of places, or a few places I think, and then it was into Beckett's for the very first time in a pack of 30 odd cars coming through here, and once again just try to make up a few places whilst not trying to lose any balancing, you know, that aggression versus trying to survive the first lap. You know what they say, to finish first you must finish. Not that I had, you know, any thoughts I'd be finishing first and 21st on the grid, but yeah, just still had that mindset in mind. So coming to Stoke for the first time, yeah, quite a bit of traffic here, trying to keep my nose clean, managed to get through there safely, and into the chicane. I think it's still referred to as Abbey, but I'll double check that. So into the chicane. As you can see, there's a bit of damp on the windscreen, so conditions weren't perfect. There was, you know, a bit of moisture in the air and on the track, but to be honest, at this point in the race, conditions felt okay. And you can still see me getting into the slipstream here. There's a, you know, big row of cars all benefiting from each other's slipstream, so just taking advantage of that. And going into this corner here, trying to see if the move is on, diving down the inside, but I just didn't have enough speed, and the driver front took his line as normal, which was perfectly okay. Now into this corner, which kind of has a concertina effect. You see a few cars getting into trouble there, and I get round safely, but look in my mirrors, I've got another car right on my tail, so that's my next kind of thing to deal with. And I'll go slightly defensive into the Brooklands and Luffield complex here, but decide to take the conventional line, braking as late as hard as I can, and manage to take the apex as normal without him getting ahead of me. Then into this final corner to start the second lap, and at this stage looks like I've survived the first lap but made a few places, which is great. So now I'm in some free air, I can see the cars ahead. My main mission now is to get into a rhythm and see what progress I can make. So coming through Cops for the first time, a bit wide here, but I still get a better exit than the driver ahead, which allows me to get ahead of him before going into Maggots and Beckett's. So going to Beckett's here for the first time in semi-clear air. Like I said, just trying to keep into a rhythm because the car's moving around a bit, and yeah, trying to get a great exit onto the hangar straight, and trying to get into that all-important slipstream. Slipstream is very important here. Now on this track, looking at my V-Box footage, at the end of the straight here, in a tow, we're hitting around 120 miles an hour before braking for the slow corner, and looking ahead I can see that I'm making up some good time on the pack ahead. So yeah, just trying to keep my head down, get my points right to see what we can do in terms of making progress. I can see a big pack ahead as well. So even though, you know, I'm quite far back in, so I went a bit wide there, a bit wider than I wanted to. So even though, you know, I'm quite far back in the pack, I can see the cars ahead, which is quite encouraging. Also encouraging is getting into this slipstream here. But ultimately, don't really take that corner as well as I could have done. And so, yeah, still focusing on seeing what progress we make to catch up. And into this corner here, which is quite important because it's the corner onto the back straight, which I believe is called the Hamilton Straight. It used to be called the Wellington Straight, now I think it's called the Hamilton Straight. So yeah, going to there. If you look to the right, you can see a couple of cars who have come together there, so that's another couple of places made, thankfully. Then braking hard into the Brooklands and Luffield complex again. And then into the final corner, trying to get the best exit possible so that I can start lap 3 as I cross the start-finish line, coming up beyond this right-hand kink on the old F1 start-finish straight. up into 5th, coming into Pop's corner. Still a bit of movement in the car, but don't run too wide. And once again, just focusing on getting into that toe as we approach the Beckett's complex. In my opinion, probably one of the best pieces of racetrack in the world. But it feels amazing in a Caterham, so I can only imagine how it feels in a car with downforce when it feels so good and satisfying in Caterham. So coming down the hanger straight once again, get a bit more into the slipstream, and I can see I'm gaining on the car ahead, probably approaching about 115, 120 miles an hour down here before breaking down into the Stowe corner. A bit sideways, but still managed to keep momentum, and I can see that I've caught up with the pack in front now, which is very encouraging. Decided to take the regular line for this corner. I think it's Abbey and Vale, I think it is. So I think that was Abbey. I think this could be Vale. Answers in the comments below if I'm mistaken. But then come across some more cars. But now I've pretty much on double toe. The car in front's got a toe from the car ahead, and I've got a toe from both of them, which puts me in good stead to carry quite good speed into this complex here. Allows me to get into the slipstream and make a move into this tight right hander here. So another place made, thankfully. The sky is looking very grey indeed. Get a bit twitchy into this corner here. It's quite fiddly, that corner, easy to overdrive, but still get an okay exit onto the Hamilton straight. Then later on in the next lap, approaching Stowe corner, still giving chase, still making good progress as we come into the Abbey Vale chicane again. And once again, always my thought is to get the best exit possible. I feel that I'm a bit closer this time, so learning my lesson from the lap before, not getting too wide from the apex here. And I feel that, yeah, I'm benefiting from a fairly good toe here. So coming into this fast right-hander, yeah, really in the toe now, really able to take advantage of that. I feel that I moved on into the braking zone for this next right-hander. Go for it, and overcook it ever so slightly, but still managed to keep control. And but because of that, yeah, the car ahead gets the pace back, but I'm in prime position to take advantage of the slipstream into the Brooklands Gulfhill complex. And I see that there's a yellow flag here, and even though I'm pretty sure I'm ahead, I'm not that sure, so I give the pace back because I don't want to get a penalty when I'm not certain. But anyway, it puts me into a good position to get in the slipstream before the start finish straight here. So getting in the slipstream here. But what I can tell you is that, you know, despite that mistake, this was actually my fastest lap of the race. So coming in, I see a gap into Cops and just decide to go for it. There's a gap there, putting all my trust in myself and the driver next to me not to turn in. And we both make it. I can see he's right behind me coming into Beckett's. So I decided to give him a bit of space on the right hand side there in case he decides to make a move. So, you know, I avoid the ideal line a little bit, which, you know, puts me offline, and as you can see by my hand, compromises me a little bit. But I still managed to keep the place and onto the hanger straight and head down, focused on the lap ahead and trying to catch the pack ahead as well into Stowe corner. And moving further into the lap, I've managed to catch up with the pack after a series of double waved yellow flags. So right on the tail of the pack ahead here. I can actually see first place at this point. if I look really far ahead. And then, yeah, it's confirmed that there's a safety car. You can see the safety car board at the start finish line there. So it's time to focus, settle down, try and keep the car warm, try and keep the tyres as warm as possible in these conditions. And the safety car was out for a couple of laps until it was time for the race to be resumed. So at this point, the safety car lights are off. Now it's up to the leader to restart the race. And I was trying to get as far to the backside of the car in front as possible. And I'm not really as close as I want to be as we start this lap. If you look at my windscreen, you can see the water streaming off it at this point because the conditions have got worse during that safety car period. So it'll be interesting to see what the grip is like going into Cops after a couple of laps at a slow pace. And not too bad, I'll get through it okay. But now I can feel that I'm in the slipstream of the driver ahead heading to Beckett's. So we'll see what we can do here. Yeah, managed to keep in the tow as I'm going through that complex there. Trying to get the best exit possible onto the hanger straight. Staying in the tow. And then we're deep in the tow now. Moving up into 5th gear. Trying to stay in the tow for as long as possible before the braking point for stow. Make my move into the inside. Brake. Because there's so little grip, the car just goes straight, but managed to make it around the corner just, and managed to make that position too. So very happy with that. Then into the Abbey Bell complex, as I think it's called, and I can see the pack ahead. So the race is on for me at this point. I can actually see first place. I can see the cars behind. I can see that they're fighting one another. So if I can just keep it on track at this point, I'm in with a chance of catching up with them hopefully. Some clear air. But braking for the corner here. Actually make it round okay. As you can see, it's very slippery now. Fighting with the car a bit, and look, I've made up a bit of ground on the pack ahead. Trying to get the best exit out the final corner. Getting very sideways, almost losing on the exit there. Almost put into the gravel. And then onto the next lap for the closing stages of the race. Through Cops, coming up to Cops now. Taking it okay, but you can see, yeah, grip is really a premium now. You can still see the pack ahead. Coming into Maggots and Beckett's, trying to keep the momentum up. Conscious that there's less grip on track, but still try, so I run wide, a bit wider there than I want to. But yeah, still in sight, look at them, ever closer. Trying to get a good exit now into the hanger straight and into that ever important tow. I can just see those places now, they're tantalisingly close. And getting myself ready for stow. Balancing the aggression and trying to, you know, catch that pack in front. We're trying to keep it on track because it's wet. It's a really fine balancing act. But managed to make it round okay that time. Coming into this chicane complex here, brake as hard as possible, and then lock up and go a bit wide, which cost me a fair bit of time, I'd say. But look, still there, still catching up a little bit, I think. Come on, just trying to keep it on the track now. Getting a bit ragged, getting a bit sideways, but still keeping it on the track. Eyes ahead. Into this next fast section here. Making it around okay. And I look ahead and see that there's a car that's lost it in front of me, so I hesitate, and if you look at my mirrors, that's allowed the car behind that I overtook before, and the car behind him to close up on me completely. So just trying to get around these two corners. This one is ever important because it moves on to the Hamilton straight, and I can feel that we're coming to the closing stages of the race now, so I'm desperate to keep onto this position. If you look in my mirror there, he's right behind me. So I decided to go defensive because I know that we're in the closing stages of the race. I really want to hold on to this position. The cars ahead are a bit far ahead. so keep to the inside line to try and make him go around the outside. That works. I managed to make the apex, and it's actually got a fair bit of grip there. And I've got the inside line into the final corner. A bit slippery, but still making it around. Coming out of it, a bit sideways, but okay, a bit more clean than last time. And into the start finish straight, try and cut the corner, but it's a very slippery, just gets a bit sideways there, and checker flag. And I'm just punching the air because I know that I've not won the race, but I've made a fair few positions. I enjoyed, you know, the wheel-to-wheel action throughout that race in the wet conditions. They've got, you know, increasingly greasy and wet as time went on, and I'm just over the moon, literally. Honking the horn there as well, and what a race. One of the best experiences of my life. I'm not hesitating. I feel like that I've won the race when at this point I didn't know what point I finished. But once I did get to the pits, I found out that I'd finished P7, so 7th place, which is absolutely amazing. So made up 14 places in that 20-minute race, and I could not be happier. What a result. Happy to get a solid result on the board after the difficulties I'd endured in the first 2 rounds. And yeah, dead happy with that. And so after finishing 7th in the race on Saturday, that meant I started 7th on the grid for race 2 on Sunday. And as you can see, it was a bit brighter. Now the video here starts in the assembly area, which is where all the drivers gather to put themselves in the right position before heading out on track and gridding up on the track before the race. Now here you can see me getting interviewed by the Caterham TV crew, the crew that provides the live stream of the races for the entire race weekend. And I was just chatting a little bit about my exploits in the race the day before, my experiences, and yeah, just explaining how I got on and my feelings in terms of starting in 7th place for this particular race. So that was a nice experience. It was a first for me, as it's and a brand new experience. One of many that I've had as I've embarked on this racing season, so that was great. Now, just to give you a bit more insight into the assembly area, so typically we tend to get into the assembly area about half an hour before the race, and you can usually cut the tension with a knife, as there's only a few minutes before the race start. And then talking about race starts, here we go. The race 2. At Silverstone, starting 7th place. Got a relatively decent start, I think. I managed to engage 3rd gear correctly. It looked like everyone around me got a good start as well. I tried to go around the outside for turn 1 like it did in the first race. And at this point, I actually think I'm not doing too badly, getting a good tow from the car ahead. Coming into Beckett's, I go a lot wider than I ideally want to, and you see that there's absolutely no grip there. Maybe a combination of me being offline. But immediately there, I knew that the car's handling was extremely different from the day before. On Saturday, even when taking that line, the car felt planted, but I immediately felt that I had a lot of oversteer in the car as soon as I tried to put any load into it, especially in the fast corners. So coming into Stowe Corner, first race, braking, and yeah, just no grip whatsoever from my perspective. Maybe I wasn't on the ideal line, run wide, and allow quite a few cars to pass me. So I lose about 3 or 4 positions there, but not letting that get me down, and just staying focused as we go into Abbey and Vale. Still don't know whether I'm calling these names, saying the right corner names for these corners, so do let me know. But still, trying to keep in the slipstream of the cars in front for this main straight here, the F1 start-finish straight. Coming into this right-left complex, knowing that there's a relatively good braking point, or big braking point here that allow the cars to concertina up and see where I can make some progress. So I do manage to catch up here. From lesson learned from race 1, cars do tend to get together here, so just trying to keep out the way. You can see there is a bit of argy-bargy here with 3 cars initially going to this corner, and here I'm in prime position to get in the tow for the Brooklands and Luffields complex here. So trying to get in the tow of this car on the inside and braking for the corner, and yeah, everyone's pretty quick, so I don't really manage to make any inroads. And likewise, I'm just fighting with the car at this point. The loose rear end is quite pronounced, as you can see here, and I try and go wide to try and square off the corner to get a decent exit, but run a bit wide as the cars in front do, and as you can see, that's what's caused a bit of some windscreen damage to the bottom left of my windscreen, but no bother, the rest of it's okay, and the driver's side of the windscreen is absolutely fine. So coming into Cops in lap 1, that bad exit I got compromised me, so I lost time all the way up the straight, allowing number 46 here to get past. And I tried to hang on going to Beckett's, but I'm not on the right line, so let him through. And yeah, as you can see, I'm just fighting the car all the way through. So got a bit of a spinner there, but yeah, coming into the hangar straight here, rather than focusing on forward momentum, I'm just fighting with the rear of the car. We're still trying to get into the tow. You can see the cars in front weaving around to try and break the tow from the cars behind. But yeah, I'm still trying to make inroads and get a good entry into Stowe after a fraught entry I had last race. As you can see, my hands are all over the place, but still managed to get round and try and see if there's a move on for the car in front, but not really close enough. And because of that, sideways moment I had in Stowe, that allows this car to get in front of me too. But nevertheless, if you look in front, the train in front still not too far ahead of me, to be honest with you. So I'm still in the pack, in the hunt. So it's just a case of not being despondent about being overtaken, staying patient and level-headed, and trying to see what I can do, especially into this section here, where the pack I do find tends to concertina up into these slow corners here, the right followed by the left. So under braking here, you can see the pack in front. I try and make my best entry into this corner for a good exit, and then yeah, I'm in premium position for taking advantage of the tow of all these cars in front. You can see there's a bit more weaving going on. It's like a NASCAR race down the straights this bit. Then braking into the Brooklands and Luffield complex, going over the bumps a bit there, which isn't ideal, and then into the final corner, soaring away at the wheel, which I don't really want to do, but it's just the way that the car is in that time. But nevertheless, still in prime position for a tow. The pack ahead are still visible to me. I can still see them, which is the main thing. And because of I've got a bit of clear air, I'll get clear run into Cops and manage to get a semi decent exit, I think. Maybe struggling with getting it into gear there, and have some clear air going into Beckett's as well. And yeah, trying to keep it smooth, knowing that the car's handling isn't really optimal for me. So now I've got that information, I can drive accordingly, and yeah, make a little bit of time up there. But you see, I'm just still fighting with the car. So rather than having forward momentum, I'm just focus and trying to keep it on the track. And coming down to Stowe Corner again, one of my favourites on the track, it has to be said. Yeah, take a bit of a tighter line than ideal. As I can looking at my mirrors, I think I'm being a bit defensive for the car behind. You can see in the mirrors there's a car right behind me there. So I've got that to take into account as well. But despite that, still catching up with the cars in front. And as you can see, the pack is still there. I'm not too far away from the lead pack, despite all the places I've lost. It's a very close race. And yeah, try and get the best exit possible from that corner.
Ideally, I probably would have stayed behind this car here rather than trying to get on this side. But in that situation, I was just trying to see if there was a move on. But as you can see, I lost out a bit, and then catch up again coming into this right-hand corner. So once again, conscious that there's quite a few cars together. Get a very bad entry there, which allows the car behind me to pounce on my mistake there. But I'm in prime position for the toe down to the final two corners on the race. He's taking the inside line, so I decided to try and go around the outside, trying to push my luck to see if I can make a move around the outside, but I go a bit too wide, and that allows him to take the line for the entry to this final corner here. And as you can see, I'm still soaring away at the wheel there, trying to get a decent exit onto the pit straight. And my compromised exit has allowed the cars in front to get a bit of a gap on me. But nevertheless, coming to Copse, try to make that time back up, which I do to some extent. So make up a fair bit of time on those cars in front. And coming to Beckett's, I try and take the inside line, but I'm not really far ahead enough to commit to the move. So decide to drop back and then stay in the train on the toe with the next straight in mind. I get an okay exit, but just conscious, of not soaring away at the wheel too much. But the cars in front are just rapid out of that Beckett's complex there. So fast, in fact, that I can't really get to the toe, and because my because my exit was so compromised, it's allowed the car behind me to get ahead as well. But nevertheless, despite that, as I said, the pack in front are still in touching distance. As you can see, there's a big pack of cars coming into this section here, trying to get a decent exit and stay in the toe here as we go up F1 start to finish straight to this fast right left hand sequence corner. Sorry, I'm not too sure of the names here. And making some inroads on the cars in front. So braking for this right left complex. Managed to catch up on these cars that are battling. I have to make a very evasive move as I get such a good entry into that corner. I almost hit the car in front. That compromises my exit and makes me lose another place, but still in a decent position for the slipstream. Try and close some time up under braking. See, there's two cars that make contact there, and I just missed this car. Luckily, he doesn't come into my path. He stops on the grass there, but that was close. And once again, trying to get the best exit that I can with the car that I have underneath me in this race. So just trying to stay focused and keep my head down into Copse again. And catching up again a little bit, I think, into Beckett's, just checking the tightness of my belts going into the corner there. Just trying to keep it smooth as possible. Looks like I do make up a little bit of time on the cars ahead. Once again, that exit is a bit of a bogey, but not too bad. And getting into the slipstream. And interesting to see whether I do get close enough to attempt to move into Stowe, but judging by the gap here, it moves not on. So I decided to just get the optimal line through the corner. Still fighting the car all the way through. Look at the time that costs me. A lot of time there into Vale or chicane. trying to keep the car settled there and trying to get a decent exit to the start finish straight. So next lap, looks like there's been an incident in front, lots of debris in my path, which I managed to miss, thankfully. But that contact that there was at front has closed the gap up a bit. It's given me the opportunity to close up on the cars in front. Once again, you can see the train of cars up ahead. But yeah, I get right on the back of this car in front, and not able to get too far ahead of him because I'm not in the tow. So I decided to get in the tow again and try and get as close as possible coming through Stowe, just managing the oversteer. It's slightly distracted by the car that come off there, I think, but nothing too major, not a major issue. Braking into the chicane here. There was some coolant on the track there, so luckily I managed to not lose the car there. But yeah, fair bit of oversteer. Managed to keep it on track. We ran very deep, which compromised me a bit. But luckily the cars in front of me compromised by that slow moving car too, so net it wasn't really a loss. And then right on the tail of the cars in front, going through this right left hand section, trying to make up some more time here, which I do thankfully. And trying to get a good slingshot onto this final straight here. Back straight, the Hamilton straight. Yeah, lovely. It looks like these cars are side by side, so I've got two tows to choose from. No room on the outside, so I decided to go on the inside. So essentially we're running 3 abreast into the Brooklands-Luffield complex. Trying to brake as late and hard as possible. I have trouble getting into third gear, delayed, which compromises me somewhat. So I managed to make one overtaking manoeuvre. If I perhaps had a better change into back down into third there, I could have had the second car, but alas, I didn't. I still managed to make a single overtaking manoeuvre there. Try and stay in this car's tow coming into Cox. Trying to keep on his tail there. Through Beckett's, dodging that debris, so much there. That'd be quite dangerous. But yeah, the car in front of us appears to have very, very good pace overall. So trying as I may to hold on to it. Down the hang straight here. Just trying to stay in that tow down to Stowe. So I get very close, but nowhere near close enough to even attempt an overtaking move. So just trying to focus on getting my entry and exit as good as possible. So keeping it tidier there, tidier than previous laps. Probably the my tidiest attempt through that corner through the whole race. Was wary of the coolant that was on track before. Seemed to have been got a bit better exit than the last time I went through. And here, coming to the final turn, I think this may be the final lap of the race. Managed to hold on. Wasn't the perfect race for me, but had some good fun, good wheel-to-wheel action, and lots of lessons learned as I crossed the checker flag to finish. And in that race, after getting back to the pits, I found that I finished P10. So another top 10 finish. So 7th place and 10th place. Pretty decent results for the weekend, I think. And then here are some thoughts from me immediately after the race, after I got back to the pits.
Hey everyone, so I've just literally finished race 2 of the Silverstone GP round of the Caterham Roadsport Championship, and yeah, happy to report that I finished in 10th place. which is good. It's a good milestone in my season so far. But at the same time, I'm very, very slightly disappointed because I started 7th and lost 3 places, which isn't always great, but nevertheless happy to get a solid result in the bag after 7th yesterday. So, you know, after the struggles I've had in the first 2 rounds, I think having a 7th place and a 10th place for the weekend is good, and considering I started 21st yesterday, making up a total of, you know, net 11 places, it is great. But in terms of that previous race now, so I didn't really have the time to do a race report for race 1. Race 1 was epic in terms of how I felt in the car. Felt really stable, even though the conditions are greasy, the car felt planted, and that gave me the confidence to kind of plough through the field and just be very decisive with my overtaking. Whereas today the car felt quite different. The rear end was particularly loose, especially in the fast corners. So yeah, going into Beckett's in that first lap, yeah, I was just fighting oversteer. And I think I lost a few places, but managed to get 10th in the end, which is great because there was, you know, quite a bit of damage to cars around me. You know, a couple of DNFs that I saw. So to get round and finish the race in 10th and finish in one piece is great. So ultimately, I think I can be happy, yeah, happy to say that the car. Sorry, I'm sure you don't want my ugly mug that close to the camera. Happy to say that the car is in one piece. I mean, at the Stowe corner on the first lap, I felt a bit of a love tap at the rear, so I was afraid that I would have lost this bumper. You know, to those of you that watch Caterham racing quite regularly, you'll often see a number of cars without these bumpers at the rear. And that's what I thought happened to me, but luckily here you can just see a couple of tyre marks. And the other bit of minor damage I had was just to my beautifully customised number plate. I wouldn't say I'm heartbroken, it's quite easy to get a replacement. Yeah, just see this damage here. I'm not too sure how I did it. I don't recall hitting anybody, but see, I must have hit some debris, or some debris must have flown up into my car. Because yeah, there was quite a lot out there. And another bit of damage is I've got a bullet hit to the windscreen here. That was just from some debris or some gravel that hit the windscreen there, and that's quite a common occurrence in this series actually. In the last race, there was actually one of my fellow racers had his whole screen smashed, and credit to him, he raced the whole race with that at Snetterton. So yeah, car is in one piece, which I can celebrate, and yeah, looking forward to the next round. And that's a wrap on the Silverstone Grand Prix round of the Caterham Roadsport Championship, and I hope you enjoyed all the footage that I took there. And I just wanted to have some final words because in that last video that I took of myself post race 2, I can't help but think I was a little bit negative and harsh on myself. The adrenaline was running. I just finished the race, and you know, after coming through the field in race 1, I was slightly disappointed at where I finished in race 2. But coming back home, and once I'd had a day or two to process the entire weekend, I think I can be really, really happy with how it went, and I really enjoyed myself. Not just in terms of getting 2 top 10 finishes, which are my best results of the season, but just having the privilege and experience of racing my car on the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, and yeah, something that I'm gonna cherish forever, I would say. Even if I don't race another race again, at least I'll have that weekend to look upon. And I think that round exemplifies just how much of a roller coaster motor racing is. So I arrived at the circuit really late on Friday evening, set up my awning. On Thursday evening, set up my awning in pitch black. On Thursday night, it was done by 11:30. Got back to the track at 7 o'clock in the morning. Had to deal with some technical issues with my V-box, which eventually I did get sorted after a couple of hours. Then for the entire time of testing, because I'd never driven the track before, I was trying to learn the track that entire day in the baking heat. It was 30 degrees. And then the next day we had qualifying. And to be honest with you, in qualifying, the car did feel quite good. So I was actually quite surprised and a little bit disappointed that I finished 21st in qualifying, especially because I qualified around that sort of place on the grid for Snetterton as well. So, you know, I was afraid that history would repeat itself in terms of having a difficult weekend race-wise. So to race in race one in those difficult, wet, greasy conditions, and to come through the field to finish 7th was just indescribable to me. I didn't have a chance to, you know, give my thoughts just after the race when I finished it. But looking back, yeah, what a race! One of the best experiences of my life. Not just, you know, in terms of racing, but in terms of, you know, my overall life. Really, that's something I'm gonna remember forever. And then, so, you know, starting 7th on the grid for race 2, you know, I did have high hopes and was hoping to you know, come through the field in a similar way, but it just wasn't meant to be. I didn't have the car underneath me to do that, really. But nevertheless, you know, despite, you know, losing quite a few places in that race, I think I was down to 14th at some point. Coming 10th and having another top 10 finish, it is great, and it represents, you know, a great milestone in my season. Yeah, just looking forward to the rest of the season now after having those results under my belt. So yeah, with that, I think I'll come to a close. So if you like that episode, please give me a like and a subscribe. I know it was a bumper episode, so one thing I'd like to know is, moving forward, now that I've got my footage situation sorted, would you prefer me to have both my races in one video like I have today, or would you like me to split my race 1 and race 2 into 2 separate videos? I'm open to feedback on that, so it's all down to everyone watching to decide on that. So yeah, comment below, comment in the comments as to how you would prefer my video format to be moving forward. And once again, I'm really open to feedback. So, you know, I showed you a little snippet of what I get up to on a weekend, on the build up to a race weekend and away from the track. So if there's anything else that you want to know about, you know, my racing life or the way I approach racing in and around a weekend, once again, do let me know, and I'll try and incorporate that into my videos. In addition to the actual track action itself, because there is so much that goes on around a race weekend and around the track that you just don't see, and it's, you know, hard to you know, put into a single video. But with that, once again, thank you for watching. Thanks for all your comments and support. Like I said, open to your feedback. Please like, subscribe, comment. And I will see you for the next round at Donington Park. Thanks very much.